Hey, it's Tim here. In today's video, Tableau has a new CEO. As ever, let's get stuck in. So you might have missed this earlier in the week, but Tableau announced on LinkedIn and on Twitter that they had a new leader, Ryan Aytay, the new president and CEO of Tableau, as you can see from this post here. Now, I did find this slightly strange because if you go to the Tableau newsroom, there's nothing here about that. There's nothing on the Tableau blog, and there's also nothing on the Salesforce newsroom, the Salesforce press releases. And if you look at all the other public articles talking about this change, they all reference those two sources. The reason, I think it's potentially because Tableau Conference is around the corner, and Tableau Conference itself normally generates a lot of news and announcements from the keynote in terms of press releases and also media coverage. People go to conference to cover what's happening at Tableau. So that might be the better stage, that might be the better moment to actually announce this. So that makes a lot of sense to me. So if you're wondering why it's weird, that's probably why. And we can wait and find out. If nothing gets mentioned at conference and no press releases come out then we can really be worried. Anyway, that's the first bit. Tableau have announced a new CEO. Now, Ryan, let's have a look at Ryan's profile. If I click on the link, you can actually go and see that Ryan Aytay is now the president and CEO of Tableau, a Salesforce company. Ryan, come on. What's going on? Just accept my invite. Anyway, if I scroll down, you can see that Ryan's actually had quite a long experience here at Salesforce. If I go right to the bottom and sort of work backwards, you can see he was actually a management consultant previously at Deloitte, looking at mergers and acquisitions. Then he moved into a corporate development role at Salesforce Ventures. Then he looked after alliances and strategies. You can kind of read this out for yourself. He did a bit of product management. He also became the CEO of Quip very briefly for a year and 6 months. And then more recently became the business officer, did that for 2 years. Then was recently the president and revenue officer at Tableau. There's actually an interesting trend that he's only ever really done roles in the last 4 years for a year and a half at a time. So that's kind of an interesting thing. He's clearly maybe either being groomed or being prepared to maybe take a more senior role. Nonetheless, he became Chief Revenue Officer at Tableau. This is roughly the same time that we had Mark Nelson rise into the role of CEO, but Mark Nelson then stepped down. We've had no CEO for some time. It's been covered by Francois and Pedro, who've been pretty much sort of maybe looking after Tableau in a dual role. But then as of last week, President and CEO of Tableau, Ryan became that role. So that's pretty much the journey. Now, if you don't know, over the last 3 years, Tableau has now had 3 CEOs. In essence, the only other institution that I think that has changed leadership more often has been the UK government. Nonetheless, we started off with Adam Selipsky. So Adam Selipsky took over Christian Chabot. When Christian Chabot stepped down, Adam Selipsky stepped into the role. He came from AWS, and you could maybe hold him responsible for the big push to the cloud. It really helped Tableau prepare for the cloud. But then Adam Selipsky stepped down from that role and went back to AWS to take over Andy Jesse's role, because Andy Jesse was moving into Jeff Bezos' role. So there's a little bit of Silicon Valley musical chairs going on. But nonetheless, after Adam Selipsky stepped down, we had Mark Nelson step into the role. So he became CEO for a period of, I think, a year. And then that was actually quite an interesting sort of hire, because he was an internal hire. He wasn't external. So very much someone who's familiar in the organization, potentially to help people internally feel familiar with the leadership, but also someone to help bridge the gap to Salesforce, to help Salesforce better understand the business. Nonetheless, right before some wave of layoffs at Tableau, he stepped down, and then, surprise, surprise, the layoffs started happening at Salesforce, and those impacted Tableau too. There's no real clear sort of evidence that it impacted Tableau more than other parts of Salesforce, but Mark Nelson stepped down, and then at that point we didn't actually have anyone replace him. It was sort of looked after by Francois and Pedro, and now we have Ryan Aytay stepping into the CEO role. Now it's interesting he's going into role from a revenue perspective, because to be the Chief Revenue Officer of Tableau for the previous year and 4 months and then get the mandate of CEO, you've either got the mandate of CEO because revenue is going to become an even more important part of what's going on with the Tableau platform, or maybe there's a new focus and now revenue has stabilized, is under control. You can now maybe take on a new sort of leadership vision to look and pay attention at what's coming next. And to be fair, Ryan really has his work cut out. There's a lot of challenges going on. Let's just sort of step through them very briefly. The first one, the most important one, I think, is just the business. Now, there's no excusing. Tableau was acquired for quite a large amount, and so Salesforce would like to see a return on that investment. investment. In fact, I think I can remember Ryan himself highlighting Tableau as a premium purchase from Salesforce. And whenever anyone says premium purchase, what they really mean is I need to see value in return from my purchase. When you buy something expensive and you call it a premium purchase, you really want that sort of premium experience. So from a business perspective, when you buy something expensive, you want to see the return as an investment. So that was a pretty interesting sort of decision here. Now, the business has lots of challenges. We've got a very competitive market in the analytics space. We've got Microsoft and Google and lots of other providers sort of stepping into the fray. You don't have to look at what I'm saying. You can go to the Gartner Magic Quadrant and see all the little dots on the matrix they put together. Those are all companies vying for the kind of business that Tableau has been looking after for the last 20 years now. Tableau's 20, and so it's built up quite a big customer base. The other challenge is that all of the competitors really sort of do different things. If you look at Microsoft, the analytics work they do, that's not their bread and butter. Actually, it's the infrastructure and technology that's Microsoft's core sort of offering. And so where Microsoft has an advantage is they can always bundle in analytics as part of those bigger investments. And Salesforce's sort of unique USP has been the CRM, the sales focus. So Salesforce's way into most organizations is around the CRM experience. And so from a Salesforce perspective, that's sort of what's going on with Slack, Tableau, MuleSoft, and all these technologies coming together to make the Salesforce platform as good as it can be. And then the other sort of area to kind of focus on if you're going to be a CEO of something like Tableau is obviously the customer satisfaction. Once you've got Tableau, are your customers happy? And that's sort of doing interesting things. Of course, many people who use Tableau are happy with the investment, but it doesn't mean they have a completely seamless experience, whether it's connecting to new data sources, keeping up with the trends in analytics, or more recently, just things like customer experience when it comes to support. And it comes to just having some clarity about what's going on with new features that are only really capable in the Salesforce world. But then also there's this sort of, let's say, concern that Salesforce might start to roll out more and more capabilities that are only exclusive inside of the Salesforce platform. I think Salesforce Data Cloud is a good example of that. And yeah, maybe that's a good reason to pay more attention to Salesforce if you don't have Salesforce. But at the same time, a lot of companies invested in Tableau long before Salesforce was, part of the discussion. And as features start to move more towards Salesforce, people start to ask a couple of questions, and it's just maybe draws in unnecessary scrutiny when it comes to things like purchasing and renewals every single year. Nonetheless, that's obviously a big challenge in itself. And then the very final challenge is innovation. Where is Tableau going in the future? Where is the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years going to go? And in order to really take on those challenges, you have to start now. You can't in the analytics space, especially when you're a company as big as Tableau. It takes time to steer the ship. So if you're not already making corrections now, there will be trends that will just come into the analytics space and change things overnight. And I think I have huge confidence in Tableau in doing that. I've seen so many amazing things going on with product development. This conference hopefully should be a good opportunity to see more of that. But nonetheless, it is a challenge, and every company is trying to take on that challenge. You've got new entrants into the space with AI and machine learning. And so companies have to adapt, Tableau included. So those are going to be the sort of 3 big challenges for Ryan to look at. And it's a pretty interesting thing. Now, I will end this video on one small note, and it's about actually Salesforce and the CRM capability. I license Tableau quite a lot because I end up installing it on new machines. I end up installing it on my own laptop. And over the last, let's say, 6 months, I've had to actually install and unlicense Tableau quite a few times. Now, every time I do that, I always type in my details pretty religiously. I'm the kind of Tableau user who fills in that details form properly, because I always think if I do that properly, the quality of the data at the back end is going to be better, and that just makes me happy. That's the kind of person I am. Nonetheless, I filled it in with my first name, last name, usually different emails because I'm working in different contexts, so the emails are different. But the address that I put in is always my own address. Same first line, second line, address, postcode, country, all of that is always the same. I even fill out the role details. What's my role? I'm a consultant, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. Now, every single time I fill that in, and this has happened now 6 times over the last 2 years, I've got on a call within a day. Sometimes it's even within minutes, but typically it takes up to a day. And it's always someone from Salesforce. As you know, Salesforce has acquired Tableau a long time ago now, so I can just say Salesforce. And each and every time, it seems that their CRM has no way of figuring out that it's just me entering the same details again, this time with a new email because I'm in a different company. But all of those forms have been filled in with the same first name, last name, address. I've never changed it. I even have automations to sort of pre-fill certain fields like my address, first name, last name. All of that is always the same. And so if you're running the world's best CRM system and you claim to have a 360-degree view of the customer, I would think your technology is smart enough to figure out that this is the same person with a different email address signing up to the product again with a new license in a different context. And that's context that you should be adding to your 360-degree view of the customer and not calling me every single time to ask me what my interest in Tableau is. It's also funny because you're calling me and asking me what my interest in Tableau is. I always say to them, I'm very interested in Tableau. And then I go on to explain I have a YouTube channel and the conversation ends pretty quickly because I'm wasting their time. But I find it funny. Nonetheless, Salesforce is the world's best CRM. That's the kind of problem I would think is easy to solve. And there are many problems, small problems, exactly like that throughout the Tableau ecosystem, throughout the whole experience of Tableau that I think make a huge difference to the quality of life of using the product. And in my opinion, Ryan, those are the things to go and focus on, because if you can make those better, it's dead easy for me to defend the product. It's dead easy for me to show why it's better than anything else. And even if it's more expensive, I can show the value much faster, much quicker, and much easier. But if those small things don't work, it's really hard to defend the product. That's the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.